couple of weeks ago, I posted a video on my channel about some of the biggest financial mistakes that I've made throughout the course of my life. And I did that for several reasons. Number one, I just want to be as transparent as possible on my channel and give you guys the real. And secondly, just to show people that wealth building isn't always a straight line. Sometimes we have setbacks, things happen, we make mistakes, and sometimes we have to even start over. I know plenty of people that have built massive amounts of wealth that had to start over more than one time. So in today's video, I want to go over some of the best financial decisions that I've made over the course of my life. So the very first decision that I made that ended up being great for me from a financial perspective was obtaining my education. So this is going to be a two-part piece. So the first was obtaining my undergraduate degree. Second was getting my MBA. But I got a really late start out of the gate. I didn't start college until I was 20 years old. My wife and I had our son when we were really young. I was 18 years old. I was kind of a lost soul. I didn't know what life had in store for me. See, where I come from, I was the second person in my family to go to college. My oldest sister was the first. But I really didn't know what I wanted to do. When I was first enrolled, I took some general electives and then I settled on business. So I went through and I graduated with my undergraduate in business administration. And what that did is that allowed me to have the opportunity to get my first real job, which was in the pharmaceutical industry. So obtaining my education unlocked the first level of being able to increase my income. Nowadays, obtaining a college degree isn't the deciding factor on whether or not you can unlock different levels of financial success, especially with all of the technology that's available today and different ways that you can make money that just weren't available in the early 2000s. And then the second piece to that was obtaining my MBA. So when I went to get my undergraduate degree, I was around $30,000 to $40,000 in student loan debt. But one of the best things that I did is I utilized the education reimbursement policy that the company that I was working with at that time had, and I was able to get 100% of my MBA paid for from my employer. So I definitely took advantage of that. And that is when things really started to take off. Whenever I got my MBA, that really unlocked levels of financial access that I never thought was possible. And obtaining that education was key to me. Not only did it unlock levels of financial access that I never thought that I would ever be able to obtain, it also helped me to develop and expand my network. So many people that were in my cohort have went on to do great things in business. And the people that were in my cohort were from across the United States. And I now have tons of people that I've been able to interact with, bounce things off of, get referrals from, that I would have never had if I didn't take advantage and get in my education. So that was the very first great financial decision that I made. The second great financial decision that I made kind of happened by accident, but it ultimately ended up working out for the best for me. So I got my undergraduate degree in business. So I had an undergraduate in business administration, and my very first job in the pharmaceutical industry was kind of a legal / contracting hybrid role. Not sure how I kind of fell into that role. It was available. I interviewed for it. They thought that I was well versed in kind of the legalities of contracts and paperwork. So I said, okay, why not? It was my first real job where I was going to make more money than I ever had at that point. That's how I got into sourcing and procurement. And that is the type of work that I've done since the mid 2000s. My main role right now is negotiating with vendors. So negotiating terms and conditions, pricing, all of that good stuff. And then I'm also responsible for drafting and redlining contracts. So I'm very well versed in that as well. And I also create policy for the company with regards to how we procure things across the board. So the second best thing that I did was taking that role in procurement that helped my whole career flourish. So is sitting there looking at contracts all day, tedious work? Yes, but it can be a great career if that is something that you decide to do. The next great financial decision that I made was learning how to invest. I've talked a lot about on my channel about how I was in credit card debt, didn't know how to invest, and kept most of my money in a savings account. That was my life until my early 30s. And I started to educate myself on how to invest. I started out by just investing in index funds and ETFs. And at that point in time, you had to pay a per transaction fee to invest. So I was only putting money into my account maybe once every month or once every other month because the fees were high and I didn't have much money. And early out of the gate, I took some lumps when it came to investing because I got caught up in some of the hype. Someone would come to me and tell me, hey, you need to invest in A, B, or C. I didn't really do any of the research that I did because, hey, they knew what they were talking about. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump in. That was a mistake. But those mistakes helped me to learn how to invest, how to read an income statement, how to interpret an analyst call. What does PE ratio mean? What is EBITDA and how does that impact the price of a stock? So learning how to invest as well as investing in my financial education was one of the best things that I've ever decided to do. The next decision that I made from a financial perspective is probably the biggest one, right? And that was choosing the right person to get married to. So many people that I know have gotten married, have gotten divorced, and divorce can financially ruin you. And if you end up marrying the wrong person, it can literally set you back decades. There's nothing like working together, building up a nice net worth, building up a nice portfolio, going through a divorce and having that completely destroyed. Imagine building up a 6 or 7 figure portfolio, a business, a real estate business, getting divorced and having to split those assets down the middle and sell them when the market is down. It can financially destroy you and set you back decades. All right, guys, so I've talked a lot about some of the worst financial decisions that I've made. I've also talked about being inside credit card debt. So I wanted to make this video just to go over some of the best financial things that I've done over the course of my life. So I'm curious, what are some of the best financial decisions that you have made throughout the course of your life? Leave a comment down below and let me know.